Welcome to BuzzHouse, a Baker Tilly podcast where you can hear all the buzz around multifamily housing, with all the info you need to help you win now and anticipate tomorrow. Hi, I'm Don Bernards, the principal in charge of Baker Tilly's multifamily housing practice.
And I'm Garrick Gibson, a principal at Baker Tilly, also specializing in consulting on multifamily housing transactions across the country.
Let's get started. Today, our guest in the BuzzHouse is Orlando Valdes, Vice President of Business Development for Ion Water. He is here to discuss how Ion Water is having a positive impact on affordable housing and how their end-to-end water management platform is helping affordable housing owners and developers reduce water consumption and costs due to an innovative approach, which we'll get into. Before we jump into our discussion with Orlando, here are a few legislative updates we want to cover. With Congress back in session, there's a lot of discussion going around regarding housing production and regulatory and statutory issues that are driving up costs. The first item I'd like to note is the Renewing the American Dream Housing Act, which passed through the Senate Banking Committee. This act incorporated 27 bills introduced into the Senate. A few notable provisions would be eliminating the cap on the RAD program for public housing authorities, modifying NEPA requirements, increasing the welfare cap for financial institutions from 15% to 20%, with the idea of banks being able to invest more dollars in light-tick projects to create more demand as we're seeing more credits from the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which is looking to drive down pricing a little bit. And finally, would give priority for HUD funding for projects in opportunity zones. Two other pieces of proposed legislation that we want to talk about is a proposed home funds reform bill and the Identifying Regulatory Barriers to Housing Supply Act. A couple of items in these pieces of legislation include raising the threshold at which Davis-Bacon labor requirements would apply to a construction project from 12 units to 50 units, exempt various types of affordable housing projects from NEPA, ensuring that Build America, Buy America, or BABA, does not apply for the home program, along with potentially reducing zoning restrictions for affordable housing. So a lot to unpack there. And as always, the discussion is how will these items be brought to the floor and what other legislation can it be attached to as we go through the cycle and year. We'll definitely keep you updated on these potentially significant legislative items. Now I'm going to turn it over to Garrick to jump right into our discussion with Orlando. Garrick?
Thanks, Don. Thanks for those updates as always. And Orlando, I appreciate you being on BuzzHouse. We're looking forward to it. But before we jump in with some questions, would you please give our listeners some insight into your background and your role within the organization?
Absolutely. And Don and Garrick, thank you so much for this opportunity to provide some awareness around water and water waste and affordable housing. So prior to joining Ion, I actually spent the majority of my career helping mid-market to Fortune 100 companies develop, fund, and scale utility cost reduction initiatives. They were primarily focused on electrical consumption and electrical energy conservation measures. So I joined Ion in 2021 and changed my focus completely to water, which was also the start of my career in affordable housing. My introduction to affordable housing actually came much earlier, though. So I was raised by a single mother, a flight attendant. She actually worked for Eastern Airlines, if anyone remembers that brand. And we had a great life, but then Eastern went bankrupt. So very difficult, stressful period for my mother, for us. But thankfully, she was able to find affordable rental housing while she went back to school and transitioned into a new career. So I'm still focused today on utility cost reduction, but thankful for the opportunity now to be making an impact on an industry that is close to me and that I care a lot about. So at Ion, I lead business development initiatives. So I really focus on helping our affordable developers, capital partners, industry stakeholders really maximize the value of optimized water performance across the life cycle of affordable communities. So development, operations, acquisitions, recaps, dispositions, really trying to encompass all the value or squeeze every drop of value, I guess you could say, across that life cycle. And today we're working with a growing list of affordable partners that now includes over a third of AHF's largest donors today.
Thank you, Orlando, and thank you for that background. We're going to jump into some questions now so our audience can get some details around Ion. So Don and I, we're always looking to hear about innovative ways to help reduce operating costs within affordable housing because budgets are super tight and any savings can go a long way to help increase the ability to create more affordable housing or at least service more affordable housing units. So can you tell us about Ion Water, the problems that you're addressing or trying to address, and how your technology helps property owners, especially within the affordable housing space, reduce their water consumption and waste?
Yeah, absolutely. So this may sound shocking, but today, over half of the water that's being paid for in affordable housing is being wasted. So this has really created a massive financial drain on the affordable housing industry. So across the aggregate industry, right, that adds up to approximately 390 billion gallons of water that's being wasted every year. And the cost impact to that is in excess of $5.8 billion of lost operating income that's being diverted away from our affordable communities every year. And compounding this issue is the fact that water rates are increasing 2 times faster than inflation right now, and far outpacing other utility costs and a lot of other operational expenses. So if we don't address this issue of waste in the industry, those losses will easily inflate beyond $8 billion a year within the next 10 years. So our goal at Ion is to stop that waste. So we want to enable the industry to actually take control of their water use. And it is 100% addressable and viable and manageable at scale. And our partners are the ones that are proving this, right? So they are operating today the most water efficient portfolios in the industry and consuming and paying for 60% less water than the industry average. So to provide some context to that, our partners from a benchmarking perspective are consuming less than 42 gallons per bedroom per day compared to an industry average in excess of 100 gallons per bedroom per day. So a typical affordable property, 100 units, 200 bedrooms on our platform is conserving 4.6 million gallons of water every year. So on a per unit basis, that equates to about $690 a year of operating expense or income. So it's significant.
Orlando, those numbers, I knew there was waste. I had no idea, like half. Those numbers are staggering, and 390 billion. I mean, that's like I've wasted. That's unbelievable. So, I mean, how is this water being wasted? That's a lot of water being wasted. Is it simple? Where's it going?
Yeah. So the scale of this waste, a lot of times people think of leaks. So I've got water leaking onto my floors or burst pipes or underground leaks at my properties. And the scale of this issue is not related to that, right? So this waste is due to invisible water loss. So it's literally going down your drains. These are in-unit fixtures that are in disrepair, running toilets, water heaters, mixing valves, other issues that are actively leaking down the drains across properties and portfolios with no visibility to site teams and asset management teams. So if even less than 10% of a property's units are actively leaking, that's enough to double the consumption for the entire property.
Well, that's amazing to think about. One follow-up question to that, Orlando. How does the system work? How are you actually having this kind of impact with your systems?
Yeah, so we accomplished this by developing really the only end-to-end water management solution that's designed specifically for the affordable housing sector. So we're enabling consistent control and optimization of water use by one, providing visibility first and foremost. So having the ability to detect that there's an issue and then providing precise actionable data, right, or work orders, allowing the site and asset management teams to efficiently address and repair these issues before they become a drain on the property expenses. So at Ion, we're actually monitoring the water use in every unit of a property, and we're differentiating that use as either normal or abnormal consumption. And when we detect abnormal consumption, we're diagnosing what's causing it, and then we're generating those work orders for the site staff. So that's a daily cadence or a new habit for them, right? That they have this information and these insights. Where is the water being lost and wasted? And specifically, what do I have to do as a site technician or property manager to address that efficiently? And then beyond that, we provide tailored dashboards for the site team so that they can track their performance overall across the property or properties that they're responsible for, asset management dashboards, executive team, executive reports, and dashboards as well, so that the performance can be tracked on an ongoing basis. And more importantly, it's constantly providing visibility to where can we get incrementally better. The amazing thing is that the longer that properties are on our platform, the better they end up performing. And also, I do want to address for some of the listeners, one of the biggest misconceptions that we see a lot of times is developers think, hey, we're already tackling water. We're putting in low flow fixtures and shower heads and aerators and things of those natures, all of our new construction projects, all of our rehabs. So we've got this. And unfortunately, they couldn't be further from the truth. So 100% of the new construction and rehab projects where Ion is deployed, those properties are leaking prior to occupancy. You've just gone through a new construction project. You've installed the most efficient technology that you can buy. Our system goes live, right, before GCs and plumbing subs even leave the site, or, prior to occupancy. And there are things that need to be addressed. And that's no longer the developer's burden, right? That's either the fixtures were either defective, potentially coming from the manufacturers, or maybe there was user installation error when the plumbing systems were being and fixtures were being put in place. But low flow fixtures are only efficient if they aren't in disrepair and leaking. So they provide no guarantee of maintained performance. And that's why ongoing water management is really necessary.
Thanks, Orlando. You mentioned new construction and rehabs, but is Ion applicable for operating properties? Also, properties that are existing or even older properties?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and operating properties really need it today. So operational costs are rising at a disproportional rate today. And a lot of times these properties might not have availability to capital upfront or access to reserves because they've already been depleted. So the beauty of the Ion platform is there is no need for upfront capital or reserve access. These properties are able to deploy our system and are typically generating positive cash flow within the first 30 to 60 days. So as an example, if you're a developer or an investor or a lender and you have properties that are struggling with expenses, operating expenses or debt coverage, or potentially on a watch list, water performance has the opportunity to provide a lifeline to those properties and provide the necessary NOI uplift.
Perfect. Earlier, you mentioned that you were working with some of the top developers on the affordable housing list. Can you share some success stories from an affordable housing developer or community, perhaps where your system produced measurable savings or maybe uncovered issues that wouldn't actually have been found otherwise?
Yeah, that's a great question and would love to jump into that because we have a ton of case studies. And I also want to really circle back on the fact that Ion provides an end-to-end water management platform. So the end-to-end, it really has a dual meaning. On the one side, it's comprehensive. It is a platform that can be used to optimize performance at a property, but it's really end-to-end also from that life cycle perspective. So from development all the way through disposition, there's significant value there. So we can start with development and underwriting as an example. So Harmony Housing, the very first new construction project that we helped them with was sitting with a $1.6 million funding gap. Funding gaps are very common on development deals today, but one of the things that the services that we provide are underwriting supplements for our developers. So based on the tenancy of that property, is it a senior property, which we know is going to perform at 35 or better gallons per bedroom per day, right? Or a family property that should be able to achieve better than 45 gallons per bedroom per day. We provide an underwriting supplement where we model the anticipated consumption and expenses based on that local utility provider. And in this scenario, our underwriting supplement for Harmony established an additional $86,000 per year in planned operating income. And that was validated by Ion comparables, right, from our platform for the state agency and both their debt and equity on that deal. So that uplift in its own was able to close 1.2 million of that $1.6 million gap on that deal. So when you think about comp data, we know that average consumption is at or above 100 gallons per bedroom per day for the industry as a whole. So when your investors and lenders, and even you as a developer, are putting together your water cost projections or even the HUD models, it's based on data that's not wrong. It just happens to be very inefficient. And we're trying to bridge that gap on the underwriting side so that you can underwrite to an optimized number, but you're actually bridging it to asset management because you know that you can maintain that performance. So that's an example on the underwriting and development side. For operating properties, the kind of case study that jumps out, it's hard not to because it's an extreme example, but the first project that we did for McCormick Baron Salazar, we were actually able to reduce their consumption by 100,000 gallons of water a day. And that's staggering to think about. That's 10, the equivalent of that is about 10 swimming pools of water that was being wasted every day. And they were paying some of the highest rates for water in the country, 2.7 cents per gallon for water and sewer there. So over the first year, we saved that property $1 million. So that's an extreme case. So I don't want folks to think that we can do that on a regular basis because that math is not going to math every time. It really comes down to the existing water rates for water and sewer, the existing performance on a gallon per bedroom per day basis, how severe is the underperformance. But a typical 100-unit property has uplift opportunities from 50 to 100,000, potentially more, depending on those factors. And then one of the opportunities that I think is really the most significant or kind of eye-opening is on the acquisition side. So based on the underperforming water performance in the industry today, a lot of deals are mispriced. And there's a significant opportunity for upside for developers or stakeholders that know that they can capitalize on the opportunity to improve water performance of properties. So great example is Dominium acquired a property crossings at Cape Coral. And prior to that acquisition, that property was operating at 110 gallons per bedroom per day. So in line with what's typically seen. But Dominium is actually averaging less than 40 gallons per bedroom per day on our platform. So they knew that there was an opportunity there. Our system was deployed, and that property has now been performing below 45 gallons per bedroom per day. But that's a $16,000 a month savings. So just via water performance alone, that was in excess of a $3 million value additive to that acquisition. And then of equal performance or importance is on the disposition side. So same opportunity, but to maximize the value for the seller. And Kittle Property Group is a great example of a property where we were already working with Kittle at scale across their portfolio, but we hadn't deployed at every single property. And they had one that specifically that was approaching a disposition. And we were able to cut the consumption at that property leading up to the sale by 50%, I think a little bit more than 50%. And that ended up increasing their sales price on the property by $2.6 million. So I think trying to give some examples across the life cycle, but really the ability, this is an opportunity for improvement that is ubiquitous across portfolios. And again, speaking of Kittle and Dominium, they have now over 30,000 units on the Ion platform that are performing today below 40 gallons per bedroom per day. So compared to their peers with a comparable 30 plus thousand unit size portfolio, they're mitigating over 1.4 billion gallons of water a year. And that rolls up to $21 million a year of savings just in water alone.
Yeah, thanks for those case studies. I mean, that's pretty phenomenal. That's a lot of savings across the different aspects. So what about looking ahead? So how do you see water management technology evolving in affordable housing, both in terms of sustainability goals and in supporting long-term financial health of the properties?
So I believe water will follow the same trajectory that we've seen with energy efficiency. So energy optimization used to be optional. A lot of developers capitalized on that to improve property performance and valuations, but it's really not an option anymore. It's more so that it's expected. And I think that water's moving in the same direction. And reporting's a great example. So there are platforms like the Energy Star Portfolio Manager where reporting around water is becoming more of a focus. But going even a step beyond that, certain partners like the Multifamily Impact Council is now stewarding a part of their much broader impact reporting framework guidance around water, that it should be isolated when compared to energy reporting, and really focusing on a metric like gallons per bedroom per day that is more usable, relatable, related to occupancies and residents as well as a factor of that. So simplifying that methodology, providing better optics for the industry and community stakeholders, it's important. And it needs to be simple and needs to be simple to understand and communicate water performance just in general. And then with rising water scarcity and costs now impacting every state across the country, I believe that water management will become a vital standard for development, underwriting, and asset management practices. So achieving and sustaining water efficiency and performance historically has been difficult, but that's not the case anymore. There are proven ways to manage water today, and that performance, I think, is going to be essential to long-term asset performance and preservation of affordable housing. And we're now working with a growing coalition of affordable developers, partners, capital partners, industry advocates that share that view. So I think it presents a tremendous opportunity for the affordable housing industry to take the lead in this respect, and not just to protect net operating income, but also to conserve water for our future generations.
Very good. What a great bunch of information there, Orlando. That wraps up this episode of the BuzzHouse. A big thank you to Orlando Valdes and Ion Water for showing us how tackling invisible leaks can unlock financial value in affordable housing. For those of you who want to dig deeper, and it was mentioned, a white paper coming out, it is called the Water Performance Impact on Affordable Housing Investment and Lending. And you'll be able to see a copy of that either at our BuzzHouse landing page or at ionwater.io. Again, that's ionwater.io, the website for Ion Water. Once again, I'm Don Bernards.
And I'm Garrick Gibson.
Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. For additional resources around multifamily housing, check out bakertilly.com. If you have a suggestion for the show, email us at build@bakertilly.com. That's BUILD @bakertilly.com. See you next time on BuzzHouse.